did look into a couple, but they were going to charge. I want to say the last one I spoke with said something to the effect of about $10,000 for this whole process, and that was just the green card aspect. None of it was really stacking up in a way that made sense, and I knew if I had just kind of continued to try to figure that out beyond being just frustrated as I already was, I was pretty sure I was going to screw something up, and I did. The last thing I wanted was to throw a wrench into the process when I knew already from having spoken with lawyers that we had a very straightforward case and it shouldn't be that difficult.
How much sooner did you show up? Like, how much time did you save by going through
That was before I knew that I could first schedule in the website.
online? Yeah, yeah.
So it saved me 3 weeks, and next day, I honestly feel that after they take your biometrics, they approve your work permit. Because next day it was approved.
And so you ultimately got approved for your work permit like 3 weeks before you were even supposed to go to the biometrics appointment.
Yeah, every time that I would cross the border in Mexico, they would give me hard times going deep into investigation. What was my purpose crossing? And I didn't feel comfortable with that, being treated like a criminal. I haven't used my green card yet, so I don't know how the new treatment is going to look like. But at least now I know that I have the right to be here legally and to work and live. So
I was trying to just figure out what forms I even need to start with. I was looking at the USIS website, and none of the frequently asked questions, none of the anything was a basic case like ours. Every single thing was very much like, I've got 6 felonies and all of these other things, and how do I complete this process? And there was nothing about just, your average person looking to go through a green card process. Nowhere did it say what forms you needed, like nothing. I'm sure it's there somewhere, and having navigated the website like through your videos now, I'm sure I could find 1 or 2 of them. I probably still couldn't find all of the forms that we filled out. Because it's just not laid out anywhere. It's a very convoluted website with no direct path to make it easy. And yeah, I think that's probably their goal. Like, there's got to be something out there that is at least, a little more like straightforward, where you can figure out just even what paperwork is required.
So I always felt like I can trust you. I had like that feeling that if you work with her, you're gonna be okay. She cares for you because she's been through the same process. And every time that you posted a video, I was like, oh my God, this is so valuable. This is something that I wouldn't even find like searching it on Google. And all of those like little tips and shorts that you will post, they were connected. I identify with you because that was my case. That was, you were talking about me already, so I knew that it could work for us really, really well.
I was super skeptical because it was, hey, I found this random person on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after having spoken with you that first time, like, I had that, kind of same feeling where it was just, you clearly seemed like you knew what you were doing, and you brought that sense of just ease of, I got this, don't worry about it. Like, you can handle this. I've got everything you need. Just trust us. And as it turns out,
all my friends and family, they were like, "You guys are crazy by going to a random person on TikTok," and they thought that this wasn't going to work out. I'm very grateful to you for giving us a chance of trusting on us. Like we're not going to be the one disappearing on you with payments and stuff, because you help us on that regards. Like we've been here for about 3 months and no jobs and no money, and you didn't care about that. Like that was also a good sign for me. Like you didn't do this for the money, you did it for us, because you were not going to get your part right away. It just happens to me that when I see someone, I'm like, I can trust this person. And that was like my click with you. And honestly, at that moment, I just needed like somebody to trust me and let me know that everything was going to be okay. And you did that with the information that you provide, and then telling us like, don't worry, you don't have to pay me right now all the amount. It was like, this is a chance that I'm not getting a game.
He spelled Felipe's name wrong. Put he misfiled the paperwork to get Felipe an ITIN. Like, we got a rejection letter from the IRS saying that we had improperly filled out the paperwork. And I was like, this is all of the things I hired this guy to do. We worked on it pretty heavily together. We sat down and just kind of like hammered out a bunch of paperwork every time that we had time together. We would basically be in this office. I'd be over at this computer. He'd be right here where you're currently sitting on the laptop. I would try and do the forms that were kind of more directly the ones that I was supposed to be filling out, and we would just kind of like double check each other. We went through every form together multiple times just to make sure that we had filled out every box correctly.
There was always something to correct.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that we didn't let something silly slide through that, was going to cause any delays or set us back. There was one part where you basically said, you're going to want to click this, don't click that. Here's why you don't want to click that. And here's the link to the thing that tells you why you don't want to click that.
That's cool.
So it very, like, you guided it through every step was very clearly explained, and just you also providing that extra, here's why you don't want to do what you're doing. Gave you that extra level of just kind of comfort and security of like, yes, okay, I'm doing it right.
Knowing that what you're feeling, it's okay. Everybody has been through the same stage. I actually made friends with one or two in the group, which was great. And just it was very helpful. Like, maybe it wasn't your case approved, it was the other person, but at least you know that things are moving, things are rolling, and someday it's gonna be your turn and it's gonna be all right. I really love the group and the community. Everybody is so positive, and I try to also be as positive as the other ones. So I got my work permit on October 22nd, and my green card was approved on November 22nd. So it was like a month after.
How long did it take altogether?
2 months and 2 weeks since they got, starting the day that they received our application.
Felipe made this incredible little, I would say little, but it was like 100 pages book, basically documenting everything from our first messages all the way up until us being here. Like, every vacation we ever took together, our wedding, our honeymoon, our just random days that we had between meeting and filing the paperwork. He had some form of documentation in this like chronological book of basically our whole story laid out for them.
I love to take pictures of us all the time, and it was silly because I had so many pictures, and all of those moments were special for me. They were like a milestone in our lives. So the book contained it was like the story, and aside from the book, I put like the actual evidence, like receipts, notes, the title of the car that we bought together, all of that stuff.
That's cool.
I honestly feel like everybody should know about this so we can stop the scam of lawyers and attorneys, because it's a big scam, and people that think this is harder and that they need that level of backup, you don't really need a lawyer.
I would definitely say just go with the program, because you're going to save a lot of money compared to the lawyer. Yes, it does have a cost associated with it, but for what you're paying for this one part, or this program, like, instead of having to pay that every single time you need to do a step, you've got all of the pieces covered, and you've got someone who is, you got someone walking you through this whole process. And I'd say you're getting more for that money than you would with the lawyer, because you're also getting the education and knowledge of what you're actually filling out, why you're filling out what you're filling out, and just kind of I don't know. It makes it very clear as to what's happening, and you have that knowledge of, just the process of, and can kind of have that sense of accomplishment, like you said, the empowerment of just you did it. Like you've taken this thing that is this insurmountable goal, and you've taken care of it yourself. You just did it.
If you want to go through the lawyer or attorney, be prepared to have it extended for more than my time, 2 months and 2 weeks, because they take their time. They want you to make feel like this is a hard, long process. And the money also is too much. By handling yourself, you know that you can at least get your work permit like faster and start working, have something to distract and also support yourself, your family. I will highly recommend them to join the group, this community, because it's not as expensive as a lawyer, and you somehow can control the pace of your own case. If you
Oh.
want to start working sooner, you know that you gotta put a lot of effort on the evidence part and making sure everything is filed correctly. If you just want to wait, you also gonna define that like there is no time for you to start and to end. And yeah, like Patrick said, if you don't mind spending a lot of money into a lawyer versus the program, that's on you. But at the end of the day, it's you who is filling up the forms. It's you who needs to provide information. It's you who's gonna put together the evidence, and it's you who's gonna pay the cost of mailing back and forth information. But I don't remember, and I don't know any of the people that has gone through a lawyer that they have access to the user's account in like that much of control of their case, because I imagine they want to hide it. I don't know.
Hi there, and thank you for watching. My name is Margarita, and I'm the founder of the Marriage Immigration Method. Inside the Marriage Immigration Method, we focus on only one thing, and that is marriage adjustment of status. Here's what we do. We guide ambitious professional couples through the entire marriage immigration process, empowering them to secure their conditional green card, removal of conditions, and citizenship independently without the need to hire a lawyer. We will take you from feeling lost and overwhelmed about this process to confidently knowing which exact steps to take, all while reducing the time it takes for you to get there. So if you're ready to have your marriage adjustment application prepared in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and you're actually ready to get to work, this method is for you. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any updates from us. And this is the incredible story of Felipe and Patrick, who used our methodology to transform their immigration experience from really not knowing how to handle this process to getting their green card in no time and without any hiccups. Hi there, you guys. Would you mind both introducing yourself and letting us know where you're originally from?
I'm Patrick. I grew up in Vermont.
My name is Felipe, and I am from Mexico. I grew up in Tecate, Baja California.
Ah, okay, that's amazing. And where are you tuning in from? Like, what city and state are you currently in?
We're currently back in Vermont. We're in Middlebury, Vermont right now.
And Felipe, how long have you been in the US at this point? Like since you came this last time?
It was May 18th, so we're close to 7 months.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, and you were done with the whole green card process. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. We're about 2 days to be 7 months.
How about we start with this? Just tell me about you guys a little bit. Like, how did you meet? I always love hearing these stories because obviously that's the most exciting part of this story.
Well, long short story, we met at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. We connected through a online chat, like video website. I was trying to learn English so I could get my degree. That's like a requirement in Mexico. And he was trying to learn Spanish. So we both became friends at the end of March of the 2020.
For a long time, the first time we met, and then just kind of shared social media accounts and kept going every day after that.
It was not the intention I wasn't looking for a relationship. So we became very good friends for about 7 months before we decided to take an extra step.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So I would imagine from there, things kind of, escalated. Here we are today. I am curious to hear, like, when you knew that you were going to be together, when you got married, what was your initial plan as far as the green card goes? Like, how did you think you were going to handle it?
I honestly had no idea that it was going to be anywhere near this level of a process. I also don't have a lot of understanding of why the US is such a pain to deal with when it comes to any kind of border security to begin with. So I don't like the concept of borders, but the US especially has extra things involved there. And
Yeah.
I really honestly thought that it would pretty much be, all right, great, you're married, show us the proof you're married, and cool, he's fine. Like, no big deal. I was very mistaken. And I looked into trying to figure out what that process was just like on my own, because I spoke with my coworker at the time who used to be an immigration lawyer, and she was hooked me up with one of her friends that was a pro bono lawyer still doing that kind of work, and he had a brief conversation basically giving me the options of, if you're in the US, you can't leave. So we kind of went from there to figure out what we wanted to do with our lives to figure out what that next step was going to be.
So when it came to the paperwork itself, when you were like, okay, we're set, this time around, we're deciding to get married and go through the process and actually file the paperwork, have you considered hiring a lawyer or maybe working with this pro bono attorney?
I had wanted to work with him because he seemed like he pretty much he walked me through it very well. We had great conversations, but we would have had to live in San Diego to work with him because he only did kind of like that local area as a lawyer. He didn't branch outside of his little his area. He had enough of a population there that he didn't need to. And he said just the process of mailing stuff back and forth from across the country was not going to be a thing, and I definitely couldn't swing rent by myself in San Diego because obviously he was not going to be able to be working at all for that period of time. It turned into not an option. So we moved back home to stay with my parents for a little while I established a job, and he was unable to work. So we're just kind of starting that process of, we both have a little bit of an income now, so we can kind of look at what might come next now that we're through that little hurdle.
Okay, so basically that lawyer didn't work out just because you would have to be mailing stuff back and forth, and obviously like things get lost in the mail and it was just going to be a lot of headache. That sounds good. And then have you considered or looked into attorneys in your area, like where you were at the time? Just out of curiosity, maybe Googled it or anything like that.
I did look into a couple, but they were going to charge, I want to say the last one I spoke with said something to the effect of about $10,000 for this whole process, and that was just the green card aspect. And that I don't recall if that included the fees for the paperwork or not. I think that may have just been the cost for her time. Yeah. So it was very rapidly shown that that wasn't going to happen because, I mean, I don't have $10,000 just kind of hanging out that I can use to fund something like that. So that search kind of rapidly declined as well. Fell apart fast.
Did you also have to pay for a consultation, or was it a free like first call that you had with that particular person?
It was a free first call, just kind of what are you looking for, what kind of fees would be involved with that process type stuff. And it was okay, thank you for the information, goodbye. Yeah.
Did you find that consultation helpful? That's also a good question, because I'm curious if by speaking to this person, you actually learned more about the process, or was it more like, hey, this is what we can help you with, this is how much it costs?
I mostly the second one with this one, but I also feel like I had most of the information that they were trying to provide already from having spoken with the pro bono lawyer out in California.
Yeah, we didn't get that much of information. It was just after they heard about our case, they were like, "Oh, you have a pretty straightforward case, and this is the code." But they never gave us like the applications that we will need to submit and how it was going to work.
Yeah, they kept all of the actual information pretty tight. They didn't want to share anything that we could, then steal from their income.
Of course. Okay, that makes sense. So at the time, what were you ultimately looking to achieve? Like, what was your end goal?
Just making it so that Felipe wouldn't have to think about coming in and out of the country, wouldn't have to deal with kind of the same level of scrutiny and just like that lack of, oh no, my visa expires in 2 days, I have to leave and come back. And like it was, yeah, just kind of removing all of those things that make staying in the country on a day-to-day basis more of a question, and just having it so that you could just feel comfortable and safe to just, be here.
Yeah, every time that I would cross the border in Mexico, they would give me hard times going deep into investigation. What was my purpose crossing? And just I didn't feel comfortable with that, being treated like a criminal. I haven't used my green card yet, so I don't know how the new treatment is going to look like. But at least now I know that I have the right to be here legally and to work and live. So that is just gonna bring me a new experience when going both sides.
Yeah.
And of course, being able to work here and somehow make more money and provide with my family in like an equal level. Because when I was in Mexico, it doesn't matter how much I work, how many hours, I will never even be close to what my husband was making at the time. And that's also some kind of pressure that I was putting on me.
Yeah. So was it really every single time you tried to come and visit, like they were giving you a hard time and putting you into secondary inspection?
Not necessarily secondary, but it's just kind of that extra level of scrutiny where you have to make sure your story is consistent, make sure it's accurate to what they think you're doing. There was one time I was going to the chiropractor, and Felipe told them,
Oh,
we're going to the chiropractor, and they were like, oh, so you have an appointment? It's like, no, I'm going with him. Like, it turned into this whole thing when it was just silly. Like, we were just going together to my appointment, and then we were going to go shopping. Like, but
Yeah.
it turned into a escalating thing where the border agent just didn't appreciate the slight twist in English and decided to make a thing out of it.
It sounds like you spoke to one attorney in San Diego, you spoke to another local attorney, and then somehow we ended up getting to know each other.
oh well, we
That was all
skipped.
him.
Yeah. I also talked to a taxpayer or a person that do the taxes.
Yep. Tell me about it.
Because they also handle this kind of immigration paperwork.
Mm.
And she was close to $3,000, but it was also located in California. And now that we have gone through the process by yourselves, I don't know why they need us to send to them paperwork so they can mail it to USCIS. It just makes no sense and adds more cost to the process. And at that point, at that moment, we're not in control of our case. We don't know if they are doing the follow up as close as you can do it by yourself. So just knowing that we had to mail paperwork to her, that was also a no for me.
And now knowing how big of a brick that paperwork is, I can't imagine the actual just postal cost of mailing a whole ream of paper back and forth every few weeks.
She also increased the timeline, even being in USA for a year. Like it could take up to a year with her process. That now I see it is just one process.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who does it, it's just one process.
Yeah. Tell me more about this, that you didn't understand the point of doing the back and forth with the mail. Like,
Yeah.
Tell me.
So we just need to mail the paperwork to USCIS, like directly to them. I don't understand why they want to receive the paperwork and then mail it to them. And on that first appointment, she asked me for all over or information, like all of my social media that I have used, where I have worked, where we did study, like or parents' name, birthdays, everything. So she had pretty much all the information to just pour into the forms and mail it directly to USCIS. So having all of that information, why was she still required from us to mail more paperwork? And turns out that she don't need any original copies unless that they are requested by the government. So
Yeah.
like I'm saying, now we have gone through the process, people out there, lawyers, attorney, taxpayers, make it sound more difficult so they can justify the high cost of doing this paperwork.
Before we started working together, what was your biggest challenge? Like, what were you struggling most of the time? Was it just finding the right help or like trying to figure out what to do? What was it?
All of it. I was trying to just figure out what forms I even need to start with. I was looking at the USIS website, and none of the like frequently asked questions, none of the anything was a basic case like ours. Every single thing was very much like, I've got 6 felonies and all of these other things, and I've how do I complete this process? And there was nothing about just, your average person looking to go through a green card process. Nowhere did it say what forms you needed, like that, nothing. I couldn't, I'm sure it's there somewhere, and having navigated the website like through your videos now, I'm sure I could find one or two of them. I probably still couldn't find all of the forms that we filled out. Because it's just not laid out anywhere. It's a very convoluted website with no direct path to make it easy. And yeah, I think that's probably their goal.
Yep.
But I yeah, it's just it was I was completely lost and trying to figure out where to even start.
Okay, so I see exactly what was going on. So you were basically, after you were quoted 10K, you were like,
Yeah.
okay, I should probably try to figure it out on my own. Like it can't be that complicated. So that's what happened. You were like, I just want to do it myself. I don't even need to worry about hiring anybody. Is that kind of the case?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. It was like, all right, I gotta be like, there's gotta be something out there that is at least, a little more like straightforward, where you can figure out just even what paperwork is required.
Okay, so basically you tried the USCIS website. It's complete garbage. I think by design, they just like leads you in a rabbit hole and you're like, I'm still with no answers. Like I have no idea what's going on. Okay. And then did you try any other resources? Like where did you look for answers? Was it Google, Reddit? Like what was it?
I mean, I did try both of those options. I mean, like Google led me to Reddit, of course, but yeah, it was just none of it was really stacking up in a way that made sense. And I knew if I had just kind of continued to try to figure that out, beyond being just frustrated as I already was, I was pretty sure I was going to screw something up, and I did. The last thing I wanted was to throw a wrench into the process when I knew already from having spoken with lawyers that we had a very straightforward case and it shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to screw it up and put in jeopardy any of, basically again, Felipe's security and safety just being here. I didn't want to screw it up.
How much time do you think you spent like kind of researching and trying to put this together like in your own mind?
I honestly don't know. Definitely a few hours. More than a few hours probably. It was kind of in those downtimes at work, it was what I was looking into. It was just kind of one of those things where anytime I had free time, it was trying to figure out what needed to be done to make this happen. And then at some point I kind of gave up a little bit and was trying to figure out, all right, how am I going to pay these people to make it so that this is able to be done? Because we were also getting kind of closer to that time frame of, Felipe is going to have to leave the country soon, and I need to figure this out before we get closer to that date. So I didn't want to risk anything further.
What motivated you to connect with us? Like what resonated with you when you were looking for a solution to like this specific problem?
Well, that was me. I've been following your TikTok page for even before I moved into USA, I think December of the 2022. So I always felt like I can trust you. I had like that feeling that if you work with her, you're gonna be okay. She cares for you because she's been through the same process. And every time that you posted a video, I was like, oh my God, this is so valuable. This is something that I wouldn't even find like searching it on Google. And all of those like little tips and shorts that you will post, they were connected. I identify with you because that was my case. You were talking about me already, so I knew that it could work for us really, really well. And one day when we were running out of options, I told Patrick, like, I followed this girl and she posed a free step guide to follow if you want to handle your own case. And we decided to schedule a video call with you that day.
I was super skeptical because it was, hey, I found this random person on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after having spoken with you that first time, like I had that, kind of same feeling where it was just, you clearly seemed like you knew what you were doing, and you brought that sense of just ease of, I got this, don't worry about it. Like you can handle this. I've got everything you need. Just trust us. And as it turns out,
all of my friends and family, they were like, "You guys are crazy by going to a random person on TikTok," and they thought that this wasn't going to work out.
Wow, that's so interesting. Tell me more about that. So basically, everybody's like, "You guys are crazy. How are you doing that?" And then ultimately, it did work out. So I'm
Yeah,
curious.
they were like, "You need to go to a person, like physically to an office and see the person, so you know that you can trust them because you know where they are.
Yeah.
They are real."
Yeah.
You're gonna get scammed by this random person online stuff. But I mean, I feel like throughout our whole relationship, people have kind of suggested that what we're doing is a little crazy, so we're kind of used to it.
Yeah,
I mean, I
online dating.
Randomly moved to Mexico after having met this guy online, so
we haven't been a conventional couple at all.
well, I mean, our one of our local friends here had gone through the process, and she was very much like, no, you need to hire like a local attorney that you can go to when you have questions, when you have just to even do any of the process. Like you have to go to like a person that's right here so that you know where they are, kind of stuff. You need to have that physical office where they might just up and disappear on you type deal.
Wow. So what are your thoughts now? Now that you're on the other side of it, like, do you think it was worth it to do it this way?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. And just also, like, I'm very grateful to you for giving us a chance of trusting on us. Like, we're not going to be the one disappearing on you with payments and stuff, because you help us on that regards. Like, we've been here for about 3 months and no jobs and no money, and you didn't care about that. Like, that was also a good sign for me. Like, you didn't do this for the money, you did it for us, because you were not going to get your part right away.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad that we committed to each other. It was obviously like really, really worth it. I am curious about that first call. Like, what made you guys feel comfortable about it? Because I just remember we just spoke and I'm like, I'm going to give you guys some time, take your time, make your decision. But Felipe was like, no, I already made my decision. Like, I remember that call very, very well. It really stands up in my mind. You're like, no, I already made my decision. I think that this is the way we should go. Like right then on that call, what was it? Like, why did you feel so comfortable?
I don't know. I'm a good person with relationships. So it just happens to me that when I see someone, I'm like, I can trust this person. And that was like my click with you. And honestly, at that moment, I just needed somebody to trust me and let me know that everything was going to be okay. And you did that with the information that you provide, and then telling us like, don't worry, you don't have to pay me right now all the amount. It was like, this is a chance that I'm not getting again. Everything looks clear, everything it's safe.
That's amazing. I'm very happy to hear that. That's great. I'm also curious, at the time, have you guys even considered that you would also need to do the removal of conditions and citizenship? Well, at least the removal of conditions was like a must, like you must do it, or you did not know anything about that at the time?
I had no idea that there was a next step, honestly. Like I knew that obviously citizenship was a pathway that you could go down, but I did not know at all that there was like that intermediate piece of with the removal of conditions or anything really beyond. I thought it was just kind of, all right, we have to go through this thing to get the paperwork, to get the green heart card, and then that would kind of just be it for a while. I did know that there was like, if you had been married X amount of time, it could be valid for a little longer versus the other piece, but I didn't know about kind of anything beyond just like that vague notion that there was some sort of like weird time frame line jumps in there.
Yeah, that was like very valuable information for me because I thought I'm gonna have to renew my green card every time. Like it's just like a visa, but a work permit. And with the information that you provide to us, I'm like, oh my God, this is even better.
That's awesome. Yeah. So did you find it to be helpful that we were basically giving you all the steps just so that you don't need to worry about that anymore?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like just imagining going the conventional way and then hire an attorney or lawyer once again out to go through the citizenship path. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You literally need to pay them every single time, every single time. And like what we came to realize is that the reason why this is happening is because they're the ones who hold all the knowledge. They are the ones who know how the process works, and they're very protective of that knowledge. They don't want to share it because that's how they make the money. And we realized that it's kind of counterproductive to how the society is supposed to be run. Like, come on, we're supposed to know how the laws work because we're governed by them. So that's where it clicked for me that actually, instead of charging people, $10,000 for a very straightforward process, how about we just give them the knowledge or like everything that they need to know about the process, and they can do it on their own, no problem. Because again, like, you have access to all of your information, all your birth certificates, marriage certificate, like all of that. What's the point of the whole back and forth, all the mistakes that obviously happen? Instead, it just makes it so much easier. And to be completely honest, we see this beyond immigration. Like the vision is much bigger than just immigration, because every time you go and you need a lawyer, it's like thousands of dollars, obviously, very often more than 10. So it's like, who just has 10 grand laying around to just give away? Nobody does. So, and I'm curious, Patrick, did you ever need to hire a lawyer in the past, or was it like the first time?
This is the first time I've like needed a legitimate lawyer, or thought I did at least. Needed a full-on lawyer. The closest I can relate it to is like even just taxes. Like I've always just done them by myself with TurboTax.
Yeah.
This last year, having been living in Mexico, working in California, getting married, my situation got way more complex than something I'd ever had to deal with, because I was always just single filer, one job, super easy. And
what does that mean?
I had like 3 jobs.
Your life was easier before me.
Maybe it was easier, but not better. That's what mattered.
Right. Okay, there you go.
So I ended up also actually, once we got back to Vermont, I hired an accountant to do my taxes, because I wanted it to be someone else's fault if they got screwed up. And as it turns out, they did screw it up multiple times.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I got my refunds and whatever, but like the first round that he submitted, even having supplied all of the paperwork, he'd spelled Felipe's name wrong. He misfiled the paperwork to get Felipe an ITIN. Like, we got a rejection letter from the IRS saying that we had improperly filled out the paperwork. And I was like, this is all of the things I hired this guy to do, and he couldn't do any of them. So
that's intense.
Yeah, so it was just kind of like, well, I should have just gone with it myself, but now at least it's, if they come to honor me, it's on him. So that was kind of the only protection that I was paying for, I guess, in that situation.
Like with this CPA, how did you find this person? Did you just Google?
Yep. I Googled for a local tax accountant. Most of my immediate local vicinity wasn't taking on new clients at that point. I mean, it was after the tax season window, so I don't know why they were so busy. Yeah, none of the local offices were taking them on. I found this random person a few towns over that turns out my cousin's wife uses, and after having worked with him, I don't know that I would almost caution her to find a different person herself. But
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just kind of a random, like, you've got availability, you're willing to hire me or take on a client, and you're not charging any, exorbitant fees to do my work with me. So yeah, sure, like I'll let you take the liability.
Well, hopefully you don't need any help in the future. You will be
No,
able to do it yourself, but if you do, you will actually find like good support. I'm curious, out of the two of you, was it you, Felipe, who mostly handled the paperwork? I would imagine because we were like in touch the entire time, or did you work on it together?
I was together.
yeah, we worked on it pretty heavily together. We sat down and just kind of like hammered out a bunch of paperwork every time that we had time together. We would basically be in this office. I'd be over at this computer. He'd be right here where you're currently sitting on the laptop. I would try and do the forms that were kind of more directly the ones that I was supposed to be filling out, and kind of we would just kind of like double check each other. We went through every form together multiple times just to make sure that we had filled out every box correctly, had
There
checked
was
everything.
always something to correct.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that we didn't let something silly slide through that, was going to cause any delays or set us back.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so nice to hear. I'm glad that you are working on this together. Like it obviously means a lot because now you're both familiar with how the process goes. Did you find the information we teach to be clear and easy to understand?
For sure. And especially watching I had, your video on one half of the screen, the form on the other half, and a couple other tabs open behind the scenes trying to just, watch the video. I would go through the links that you provided below the video to have the uses page open so I could follow kind of both at the same time while filling out the form, just to make sure that, again, I didn't mess up anything, because that was my biggest fear, was that I was going to cause a delay by just clicking the wrong box or typing the wrong thing in a wrong spot and having it just be rejected because of it. So I wanted to, make sure everything was covered. Yeah.
What did you think about that, like, kind of step-by-step layout that you didn't really need to go anywhere else, that everything you needed was inside that portal?
It was great. It definitely made life a lot easier, and it removed, just like I said, from having gone from my own digging through the uses website to kind of just following the very clear step by step. Here's what you have to do. Night and day, like totally different experience, and like, like you kind of let us, very clearly through every step that needed to be done.
Yeah, so even though you're obviously not an attorney, you were still able to understand all the like lingo, like everything made sense. I just want to make sure that that was the case too, because obviously, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, everything that I was kind of looking, while I was reading the forms, at least everything that kind of jumped out as I don't know if that's something that, like, I don't really know what I'm looking at. Any of those situations you explained, I just needed to watch the video a little further. Because I would, obviously pause to type and come back into that stuff. So I would, you definitely explained all of the pieces, and there was one video specifically, I don't remember which form it is anymore off the top of my head, but there was one part where you basically said, you're going to want to click this, don't click that, here's why you don't want to click that, and here's the link to the thing that tells you why you don't want to click that.
That's cool.
So it very, like, you guided it through very, just, every step was very clearly explained, and just you also providing that extra, here's why you don't want to do what you're doing. Gave you that extra level of just kind of comfort and security of like, yes, okay, I'm doing it right.
What did you guys think about the community? Did you find that aspect of it to be helpful?
Personally, I didn't use the community, but I knew that Felipe was very active in the community, so I didn't necessarily feel as strongly of a need to connect in there myself, just because I knew that, he was kind of already on top of that.
I think the community is more for the people that is not a USA citizen, like the people getting into the country that need that, which I felt more as emotional support, knowing that what you're feeling, it's okay. Everybody has been through the same stage. I actually made friends with one or two in the group, which was great. And it was very helpful. Like maybe it wasn't your case approved, it was the other person, but at least you know that things are moving, things are rolling, and someday it's gonna be your turn and it's gonna be all right. I really love the group and the community. Everybody is so positive, and I try to also be as positive as the other ones.
Yeah, and you are. Like, I see your comments sometimes, and I'm like, God, I'm so grateful to you for bringing Felipe into my life because everything you say there, every time I see your comments, I'm like, oh my God, this is just the best decision that I could have ever made, like actually connecting with you guys. So this was really amazing. I really appreciate you doing what you do. Because obviously, you know, I'm trying to cultivate it. I want this to be a part of it because I remember my immigration experience. I was so scared. I was so traumatized by that fear that I was experiencing year after year that I obviously don't want you to go through the same thing. And I believe that the community is the way to do that. And you really participated in it. And I really appreciate you for that. Thank you so much for doing that. And what about Zoom calls? I know you only connected one time, and I think you were maybe shy, but I do want to ask you about that. Tell me about the Zoom call.
Yeah, so the Zoom call, in my mind, I thought it was only for people that was about to submit the paperwork. So I I wanted to handle it in that way, like let the people that needs the whole attention be there and stay connected with you. So that's why I only joined the Zoom calls one time, and it was before we were ready to submit our paperwork. And
Yeah.
it was a good thing that I joined the Zoom call that day because we were going to submit the paperwork to the local office, the field office, instead of the main in Chicago.
Ah,
So that was a good save. I don't know where I got or where we got confused because it's very clear in the videos, but that was a good save.
yeah, it was just an assumption. Honestly, a lot of people assume that because it does logically make sense. It's like, I'm going to be processed here. I will just submit my application here. So it did actually happen in the beginning. One person, I only had one person throughout the entire program who sent the paperwork to the local field office, and they just returned it back. They received them all the time, like dozens of them daily, to be completely honest. So they just reject it. They always have a process, and the person got it back and then send it to the right address. But it was about like a 1 week lost. So I'm glad that you guys didn't need to go through that. So that was very good.
Like if you look at the local field office's website, at least, like they specifically mention that like they have a Dropbox for this kind of thing. So it's like
Mhm.
they don't make again. They kind of put up that obstacle themselves of like
Yeah.
we have a Dropbox. They don't specify that you're not supposed to use it, but
It's like we have a Dropbox, but do not send us anything. It's like,
right.
what is wrong with you guys? That's funny. And then let me just take you quickly, very quickly through your timeline. Like after you joined the program, how fast did you kind of get into it? Like, was it right away, or did you take some time getting into the whole deal?
Felipe definitely started watching the videos almost right away.
Yeah.
As far as starting the paperwork, I think it took us a couple weeks before we really sat down and actually like really looked at stuff.
We joined to the program on July 25th. And since that day, we were looking, the part that took the most time was finding a doctor approved by the users to perform my test. And maybe that's because the area where we live in Vermont, there were no appointments available. So the
Mhm.
scheduling one took us 2 months.
There's only one doctor in our entire state that is authorized.
Yeah, I've heard about that. We've had this previously with Vermont. So yeah. So how did you handle it? Like, how were you able to find somebody to do it faster?
No, we just sat and wait.
Ah, so it took you 2 months to complete the medical exam.
So yeah, once we have the medical exam, we were ready with the paperwork, and we were just waiting to put all the dates down and print and submit.
Gotcha.
So we did start the paperwork before that appointment came up, and then it turned into oh, you also have to go, get a couple vaccines and things like that. So it turned into an
Oh,
extra little step. But luckily, our local health, like the state health department here, is really good about just like availability. So
Mhm.
that made it easy. We pretty much walked in and just got shots taken care of, no problem. And then they had to obviously be signed off again by the medical person, but it
Yeah.
was once that happened and we could finalize all of our paperwork, we then plug in all of the proper dates and things to where those blank spots that we had
Yeah.
it helped to accelerate that piece of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's only if the medical exam was quicker, we would have sent our paperwork like 2 months earlier. Because with the videos, we just sat down, typed down, and that was it. We have information, and there is no stoppers that can delay this, but the medical test or exam.
Yeah, so how long do you think it took you to like put together the paperwork itself after you kind of sat down and were like getting through it?
1 or 2 days.
Yeah, honestly, it didn't take that long.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's because we were working on them together so kind of efficiently. Like we were able to kind of do the first run through basically in a weekend, and then the following weekend we did it again just to make sure that that was when we kind of double checked our mistakes and things. And we were able to easily do a couple of the forms each day, if not more. And
Yeah.
then it was just kind of finalizing all the details and going through them a couple of times and making sure that everything was laid out properly and bundled right, and just all of that is what kind of took longer than filling out the actual forms. I think is just our double checks,
Yeah.
because we were, even though you made it pretty clear and step by step, we still had of course all of that kind of hesitancy and nerves for what have we messed up and how can we make sure that it's perfect before it goes anywhere that it could possibly, where we don't want to hit any roadblocks.
Well, it was perfect because you didn't get any RFEs, you didn't have any delays, everything went through so quickly. Tell me about the work permit. Like since the moment you applied, how long did it take for you to get your work permit?
So my case was received on September 15. My biometrics appointment was scheduled on the 29th of September. On the 2nd, I just show up at the office and they took me in. And next day, yep.
How much sooner did you show up? Like how much time did you save by going
3
through?
weeks. Yeah, it was before I knew that I could first schedule in the website.
Online? Yeah, yeah.
So it saved me 3 weeks, and next day, I honestly feel that after they take your biometrics, they approve your work permit. Because next day it was approved, and I got it 2 weeks after that.
Wow, that's amazing. So you ultimately got approved for your work permit like 3 weeks before you were even supposed to go to the biometrics appointment.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was a little bit afraid of the social security part, but they sent me my social security card. So the first thing that I got was a social security card. Then the next week it was the work permit. And so I got my work permit on October 22nd, and my green card was approved on November 22nd. So it was like a month after.
Wow, this was so fast. So how long did it take altogether?
2 months and 2 weeks since they got starting the day that they received our application.
That is amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. It basically took no time. I'm really happy.
Yeah, I was prepared to at least be here 6 months without working and 3 months more to get the final decisions. It was faster than that. I'm pretty sure that it was based on the evidence that we provided. You don't have this part, but it was like a book of our story, and pretty much all of the things that you recommend to put, we put it in there because we have it.
Honestly, when I saw your Facebook, I was like, okay, the immigration officer just needs to go on his Facebook and just approve the case that same moment because it's going to be so obvious. You know what I mean? When you guys are taking very beautiful pictures, like you have actual professional photo shoots. Is that what it is? Like, do you kind of set it up or do you just take those pictures yourself?
No, he just kind of whips out his camera every now and then.
Yeah. Only one of those pictures, which is after our engagement, is made by a professional. But
Wow, that is really cool. Yeah, it's very, very beautiful. I remember I even commented to you about that because I've never seen anything like that. Like your Facebook looks very, very beautiful and it like clearly shows your entire relationship. It's very nice. I'm also curious, would you say that navigating like this process together strengthened your relationship, like kind of brought you together because it was kind of like a common thing that you were working towards and you were working towards this together at the same time?
I mean, again, like kind of from my side of things, it I couldn't wrap my head around why this process is such a difficult process. And also having, being the US citizen in this situation, I didn't have that same level of understanding and fear that Felipe had. So like it kind of seeing that from his side of trying to put myself in his shoes and seeing just how important these pieces of paperwork are just in just feeling safe on a day-to-day basis and not feeling like someone could come knock on your door and rip you out of the country. Like logically I understood that that was a possibility at some point, but on the emotional level I just didn't really have that same day-to-day life experience.
Yeah.
So just kind of being presented with that kind of and reminded of just kind of the level of importance and how, yeah, I think that helped reframe my perspective a little bit and kind of helped bring me closer to in that regard for sure of just, yeah, more understanding.
Yeah, that's amazing. How do you guys feel about the fact that you did this alone without needing to hire an attorney, without needing to pay $10,000 for just the first step? Like, do you feel empowered that you did this yourself?
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, it isn't a weird sensation of independence. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is as hard as people say. You just need to put yourself and do it. I honestly feel like everybody should know about this so we can stop the scam of lawyers and attorneys.
Yeah.
Because it's a big scam and people that think this is harder and that they need that level of like backup. You don't really need a lawyer. There is nothing to defend. There is
Yeah.
nothing wrong.
And really, the last question is, what would you say to someone who is kind of trying to decide between hiring a lawyer, which is always a go-to, this is where everybody goes to first, somebody who is maybe is like, okay, I want to save money and do it entirely by myself, or someone who is considering joining our program?
I would say join the program, hands down, like no question about it. You don't like you'll definitely screw it up if you just do it by yourself. Like you might pull it off, but it's gonna take you longer. You're gonna likely screw up at least one thing and cause yourself headaches. Um, Not the path. The lawyers might walk you through it. They might be able to take care of it for you if you're able, like, willing to put all of it in their hands and not then just kind of you have that level of trust with them. Then I guess that's great if you've got the financial resources to pull that off. I would say that most people going through this process probably don't have that kind of financial backing to just throw 10 grand at the problem and have it taken care of for them. Um, so I would definitely say just go with the program because you're going to save a lot of money compared to the lawyer. Yes, it does have a cost associated with it, but for what you're paying for this one part or this program, like instead of having to pay that every single time you need to do a step, you've got all of the pieces covered and you've got someone who is, you got someone walking you through this whole process. And I'd say you're getting more for that money than you would with the lawyer because you're also getting the education and knowledge of you're actually filling out, why you're filling out what you're filling out, and just kind of, I don't know, it makes it very clear as to what's happening, and you have that knowledge of the process of, and can kind of have that a sense of accomplishment, like you said, the empowerment of just you did it, like you've taken this thing that is this insurmountable goal, and you've taken care of it yourself. You just did it.
Yeah, I would not recommend do it yourself. Um, doesn't matter how well prepared you are, how many bachelor's degree you have.
Mhm.
This is something difficult. This is something that only with experience and guidance you will be able to complete. If you want to go through the lawyer or attorney, be prepared to have it extended for more than my time, 2 months and 2 weeks, because they take their time. They want you to make feel like this is a hard, long process. And the money also is too much. By handling yourself, you know that you can at least get the work permit like faster, start working, have something to distract, and also support yourself, your family, and pay the attorney, lawyer, or program that you want to follow. Um, I will highly recommend them to join the group, this community, because it's not as expensive as a lawyer, and you somehow can control the pace of your own case. If you
Oh.
want to start working sooner, you know that you gotta put a lot of effort on the evidence part and making sure everything is filed correctly. If you just want to wait, you also gonna define that like there is no time for you to start and to end. Um, and yeah, like Patrick said, if you don't mind spending a lot of money into a lawyer versus the program, that's on you. But at the end of the day, it's you who is filling up the forms. It's you who needs to provide information. It's you who's gonna put together the evidence, and it's you who's gonna pay the cost of mailing back and forth information. But I don't remember, and I don't know any of the people that has gone to through a lawyer that they have access to the user's account in like that much of control of their case. Because I imagine they want to hide it. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, I totally forgot to ask you about that. So, what did you think about the fact that we weren't sharing with you, hey, this is how you fill out the forms, period. We obviously know that like immigrants don't know about these things, like such as creating the USS Online account, like everything that goes into it. How do you feel that we were actually like sharing that additional information to make sure that you feel comfortable like throughout the entire process?
Wow, that brings peace of mind, knowing that there is a website where you can go check and see what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't imagine myself sitting around not knowing what's going on, just waiting for the mail or waiting for a call, when you can just go online and at least see that they are working on it or that there is a timeline.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It was really hard for me to wait 2 weeks. It was really hard to wait 2 weeks, but I can't imagine how hard it would have been not having the website part. And I'm telling you, like all of my friends that went to lawyers or attorneys, they don't know that there is a UC's account. They don't know that they could have checked that. They were always like, I don't know. I always received text messages from my lawyer saying like, "Hey, we need to submit extra evidence." It was always the case. Submit more evidence. Why? Because the case wasn't strong. Because they mistyped something, and now they require more evidence that the couple has to provide.
Yeah. Wow. This is
You end
amazing.
up having the work anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're doing the work anyway. That's the biggest thing is that very often couples do think that, hey, I'm just gonna pay 10 grand and it's not my problem anymore. But it's like, of
Mm.
course it is. No way. You do need to work with them. And I'm very glad. I'm very glad that you were able to recognize it. You see it now because you can compare. You're like, okay, I know my friends how they went about it. I know how I did it. Like I know what my options were previously, and I did not like the whole mailing thing. And that ultimately, like here we are having this conversation. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I feel absolutely honored to be a small part of this beautiful couple's journey. And for anyone who hasn't heard about the marriage immigration method yet, it is a step-by-step coaching program designed for ambitious professional couples on how to go from lost and unable to find the right solution to getting through the entire immigration process on the first try, without making any serious or time-delaying mistakes. If this interview resonated with you and you want this transformation for yourself, you can apply to our program by following the links below. We've also included a few free helpful resources in case you're in the very beginning of this journey. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.